but perfect because I'm a terrible public speaker. So perfect kind of be like more informal. First off, I want to thank the council for inviting me to come speak. It's an honor. When my scoutmaster, Mike, approached me about speaking at this shindig, he didn't really give me much direction about what I was actually supposed to speak about. So I go home and I started thinking, what actually should I speak about? And I thought maybe I should just say the first thing that comes into my head when I get up here. And first thing that came into my head was like, wow, I'm really nervous. So please excuse any loss of bearings, loss of thoughts, loss of notes, loss of consciousness, loss of appetite, or any loss of hair that may occur. Please administer first aid if it's needed, and maybe afterwards I'll still be able to give you my 2-hour-long speech. But really, what's the first thing I should say? Well, maybe the first thing needs to be said, maybe you guys should get to know me a little better, and I should tell you my story, my scouting story. My story really kind of starts with my brother Daniel. He had a dream to be an Air Force pilot. He always wanted to go to the Air Force Academy, and he heard that being an Eagle Scout doesn't necessarily hurt your chances of getting in. So he joined scouting and advanced through the ranks and got his Eagle Scout. I remember as a kid, about 10, 11 years of age, go into that ceremony and see my brother go up there and get the shiny medal and the cool neckerchief and being like, hey, I want to do that because that's pretty awesome. So I joined as soon as I could. Sadly, my brother aged out before I was able to join, so I never actually got to do scouts with my brother. But it was kind of cool joining and having that legacy that he left behind. Because people would look at me and be like, hey, you're Dan's little brother. You must be awesome. So I had to live in that legacy, and it was really kind of fun, to have that awesomeness that Dan left behind. And to learn to be awesome on my own, to do my own thing, to be who I am. I advanced through the ranks pretty quickly. Nothing really too challenging for me. I got my Eagle Scout. I did. My project was building a playhouse for a local church, a Bible Baptist church, which is down across from Bellows. That was fun. And I learned a lot. I had a lot of fun doing scouts, and I learned a lot doing scouts. And the activities like, playing dodgeball, hockey, going on campouts, going to Camp Decorah for the week, it's always fun. But having fun isn't exactly the most important thing in scouts. When I started thinking about it, it's really three main things that I got out of scouting when I joined. Right when I walked in the doors of scouting, right away I got mentorship. Not only from direct mentorship from older scouts, but role modeling from all the leaders. There are leaders like Mike and my dad, and people like Matt from Camp Decorah. You see them, and they're good examples of good morals and good leadership. And it's a good role model. And I remember joining and seeing people like that, and the older scouts, they're also leaders and examples, and being like, hey, that's awesome. I want to be like that. It was kind of cool for me. There's a kid in the troop named Woody, and the age difference between him and my brother was the same as between him and me, and my brother kind of mentored Woody a lot, and they got to be really close friends. And when my brother left and I joined, Woody kind of took me under his wing and mentored me, and that was a really cool experience. But even if you don't have the direct mentorship when you join scouts, you always have that role modeling. The examples of leaderships and morals of all the other scouts, the older scouts, and the leaders, and the counselors, and stuff like that. And I want to be like that. I want, now that I am an Eagle Scout myself, I want younger scouts joining to see me and see me as an example and be like, hey, I want to be like that, just like how when I joined and I saw the older scouts and I was like, hey, I want to be like that. Probably the second thing I got out of scouts was morals. I grew up in a Christian home and I had morals of my own when I joined. Scouts didn't necessarily give me my morals. But every week we go to a meeting and we say the Scout law and oath. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country. To obey Scout law, to love people at all times, keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. And the law, Scout, trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind to be, and cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Every week we say that over and over and over and over and kind of drills it into your head. You know, and it's not only something that you say though, because Scouts hold you accountable. If you want to advance through the ranks, you have to do something called a board review. And at that board review, you get asked questions like, you know, what was your good turn today? Or what's your most important point of the law? Or how do you follow the law? And if you're not actually following the oath and the law, it's really hard to answer those questions and to advance through the ranks. So not only does it drill it into your head, but it holds you accountable. And one of the things that always struck me about the law is that it isn't a Scout should be, or a Scout ought to be. It's a Scout is, trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind. A Scout is. That's a high goal that attains you. You're not like, oh, I'm a Scout, that means I should be all these things. You're like, I'm a Scout, therefore I am trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind. And it's not even at Scouts only, exclusively, that you do that. You go home, and at the home, you're all those things. You follow the law, and at school, and in the community. And even after you are age out of Scouts, you still have those morals that were drilled into your head, and you were held accountable to attain to. And that's really what Scouting is all about. Raising the next generation to be a generation of morals and leadership. And that's the third thing that I got out of Scouting, is leadership. You know, I always thought when before Scouts, that leadership was something you were in a position where you were in charge and you gave other people orders. You know, but that's not actually true. Leadership isn't always about being in charge. Leadership is about being a good example. In Scouts, there are a lot of leaders. Not only Scoutmasters and counselors and stuff, but the older Scouts that are in position of leadership, and even the older Scouts that aren't necessarily in a position of leadership, who are just being a good example. And being a good leader, by being an example, you can't lead from behind. You have to lead by being an example. And if you're a good example, then people will follow you, and then you'll be put in a position of leadership. That's what leading is all about. And that's really what I learned from Scouting. It helped a lot with my project. You know, the project, Eagle Project, that an Eagle Scout does is really the pinnacle of Scouting. Like, that's not the end, but it's where everything you've learned comes together. And you demonstrate your ability to be a good leader, to build a project of such a scale. Everything that I've learned in Scouting, and that I use to my project, I'm never going to forget. They say once an Eagle Scout, you're always an Eagle Scout. And that is oh so true. Even after I'm done with Scouting, I'm not going to forget the leadership and the morals and all the examples I saw, the role modeling that I saw in Scouts. Scouts has changed me for good. And that's really what Scouting is all about. Again, just to raise a generation of kids who have good morals and who are good leaders. That's what Scouting did for me, and that's what Scouting is all about. Thank you.